So this year, Nokia teased us with 3 clean looking phones backed up by solid hardware. The Nokia 6, the 7 Plus, and the 8 Sirocco. So after doing some soul searching, I decided to pick up the 7 Plus. So I haven't seen a ton of information about this online, so I'm about to take a first look at this. Join me, sit back, relax as I unbox this phone. You're now rocking with Rakama. Let's go. First and foremost, shout out to Nokia. They had, I guess they did a little bit of work on the box art. I'm pretty much a fan of box art. Like if you remember back in the days of Blockbuster, it seemed like companies would try their best to actually do some work on the box art and stuff like that to make their particular movie or video game stand out amongst the crowd. I think this one is just a little bit overboard, but I do appreciate the effort. You know, they could have just been a lot more cleaner, but they decided to kind of, I get what they're coming from, because you have a Carl Zeiss lens, so they want to kind of talk about this phone's, you know, image quality is kind of closer to real life, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Nokia. Let's see what specs it says on the back right now. So we're looking at a Snapdragon 660, 6-inch display. And of course, you got the popular 18:9 aspect ratio, full HD display. You got the Carl Zeiss optics lens. You've got a 12 megapixel and 13 megapixel dual rear camera. And on the front, you have a 16 megapixel camera. So supposedly you also have features like dual sight mode, where what dual sight mode is you can kind of see yourself and you can see what you're filming at the same time. I guess you can put them in the same frame. So there are some other features. Well, let's see what we're gonna get into this here. So let me go ahead and unbox this. Oh, what a first strike. Strike through the box itself. Here we go. And waiting for that drop. And boom, there we go. So in the box you get the phone. Pretty thin. Has a little bit of weight. I wouldn't say as much weight as this phone. Is definitely heavier than this phone. But let's go ahead and put this to the side. So you get your ejection tool, SIM ejection tool. You get your manuals. You also have your here you go. Let me put this all in a separate box. I like how everything's really neatly arranged. You got your charging block. And you also get your, USB-C, USB-A to USB-C cord. And they also give you, how about this? This is a throwback. Not many companies other than like Samsung are actually giving you headphones. So because this phone actually does have a headphone jack on it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the phone. So we've already unboxed all the goodies. So you've got the cellophane, so let's go ahead and get that unraveled here. So you got a 2-part. Three-part. Maybe I can just slide this thing on out. Yep, there we go. Wow. I think they could have did without that Nokia logo at the top here. But other than that, it's still very minimal. I like the design. Very hard plastic, kind of a unibody design though. It's got a unibody design. I like it. You've got the fingerprint sensor on the back. Let's do the tour. Fingerprint sensor. You've got the two 12 and 13 megapixel camera lenses there. On the side, you have a, I wish it was ridged, but you have the power button here, and then you have the volume rocker right there. So on the bottom, you also have the USB port, USB-C, and then you have the speaker, downward facing speaker at the bottom. You have the SIM ejection tray on this side, and on the top, headphone jack, and that is about it. So of course you have the front facing 16 megapixel camera that we'll be taking a look at, and right now we're just going to go ahead and power on this device. So Android One is what you see on the screen here. So what Nokia is toting is that their Android One devices are going to be up to date. They're promising speedy updates on their devices. So as far as I understand, I read a article saying that this particular phone and that Nokia 8 Sirocco are actually getting the 8.1 update. So we're gonna take a look at that as soon as I get this thing started. So I'm just gonna go ahead and speed through this update, well, speed through the install and set up everything real quick, and I will be right back. So 24 hours later, what is it like using this device? I'm gonna say mostly it's positive. I'm just gonna keep it 100. Everything that they're doing right, I'm gonna go ahead and give them credit for, give them praise for. But there's some things that they could also work on as well. But mostly, my experience has been really good with this phone. First of all, the design of this thing, the build quality is top notch. Like for a mid-range phone that's below $500, surprisingly they didn't go with the glass build that everybody's doing this for the last couple years actually. But they decided to do some kind of hard plastic, could be like the G5 where it's kind of mixed metal. But either way, I don't know, whatever they decide to go with, but this thing is a very good build quality. And they really chose a really nice build. They chose a really good design. Like, it's very unique. You've got these copper rivets that go around the phone. There are no antenna lines, very clean looking. And then you have these rivets that go around all these little specific accents of the phone, like the camera area, the fingerprint sensor, and even around the bezel. Like there's a thin rivet that goes around the bezel of the phone too, on the front near the glass. And it doesn't seem to be uncomfortable. Like it's not like it's like when you rub your fingers on it, it's not like it's a rough edge or anything, a sharp edge. It feels comfortable. The phone itself does feel comfortable, like the curves, I believe the curves are in the right places in the corners, so that when you rest your hand, it's not like that boxy type phone that with some previous Sony Xperia phones where it's boxy and it's a sharp edge and you're kind of like, after a while, you kind of feel fatigued holding it. But yeah, this phone is not pinching you at all. Like, it feels really good in the hand. The display, here's one gripe I have about the display. It's not a major one, but I think that something is going on with the whites of the screen. Like anytime you have like a white panel, it's kind of like a grungy, dull kind of white. It's not like the sharp white. Even my G3, the new mobile G3, next to this, the whites look better. But I'm not mad at it. You know, other than that, the colors do look really nice. The speaker is, of course, on the bottom. I would rather them have it on the front or so. I would rather have some dual front facing speakers. But unfortunately, you know, once again, it's a mid-range phone, but I think mid-range phones can do that now, you know. But you know what? Even though it's on the bottom, the sound quality is not bad. Honestly, the sound quality is better than the G3. It has more fuller sound than the G3, but it's obviously not going to be up to par with the iPhone 10 or the Google Pixel or 2 XL. But either way, it's still loud enough. It's still adequate. I will say, speakerphone, however, for calls, speakerphone, it does sound a little on the weak side. But other than that, audio quality is fine. And here's another thing, I guess you could say it's a little bit of a disappointment because I would expect a little bit more, is the battery life. Battery life on this, after my first full charge, 24 hours, I got like about 6 hours and like 45 minutes of screen on time, and my battery is down to 10%. I could have pushed it to 7 hours, but Demir Frank, if you watch his channel, he got like 9, and he was disappointed at 9. I was expecting probably about 9. With the size battery that you have in this 3800 milliamp hour battery, I kind of would expect more because I had the Moto Z Play a couple years ago, and that thing had a smaller battery than this, and it output way more battery life. But then again, you have to take into consideration this has a 6-inch display where the Moto Z Play has a 5.5. You're pushing more pixels through the screen, so ultimately battery life is still good. It still gets you throughout the day. As a matter of fact, it'll get you through the day and then some, because I typically don't use maybe about 5 hours of screen on time a day anyway, so the rest is just icing on the cake. So with that, performance is almost like a flagship in a way. I mean, it's scary how well the Snapdragon 660 performs. They've come a long way from what it used to be. Like, even the Moto Z Play was fine, it was fluid, but this is like even scary close to like the Pixel performance, as far as like when you're browsing, you're swiping through menus, you're opening apps, things like that. It just seems like it's so fast, and I'm just surprised this is a mid-range phone. I mean, it doesn't look like a mid-range phone. Nokia is really putting in the work, and I'm actually looking forward to that Nokia 9 when it drops this year, if it is dropping this year. But there were rumors, so you know, take it as what it is. But overall, my experience with this phone has been pretty stellar. Like, the cameras, okay, haven't really taken a lot of footage considering you gotta work, but I did take a couple selfies and things like that, and honestly, I think obviously the selfie camera on this is better than the G3. And once again, my G3 review is coming out this week, so stay tuned for that. The camera on this thing, I'd say it's a plus. I think it can still use some work. There's still some grain and things like that, but the front-facing camera is actually pretty good. On Marco Polo, I use my front-facing camera for a lot of Marco Polo activity and Marco Polo messages. And between this and the G3, the front-facing camera is night and day. And I've seen footage from other YouTubers that front-facing camera, it seems like it's usable. It's actually something that you can actually use to vlog. But I will keep you posted with that, and I'm going to follow up with that too, the front and the rear cameras. So the rear camera, the front-facing camera is 16 megapixels, and the rear you have a 12 and a 13, I believe. So we're gonna have some fun with that. We're gonna check to see about if, you know, how optically stabilized it is, and overall we're just gonna kind of see what we're working with here over the next couple weeks, and I will report back with more. So I just wanted to give a quick 24-hour impressions of this phone and where we're at. And Nokia, I mean, it's been a long time. The last Nokia phone I've had was that little MP3 phone. It was shaped like a taco, and it had like keyboards on the side, and it's been a long time. And this Nokia has come a long way, so I'm really looking forward to what they're going to put out this year. Stay tuned to the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell to be notified when I do drop new content. So I try to keep new content each week, so stay tuned to the channel. Like, share, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Rakamatech. Take care. Peace.